stop me crying, baby, it'll be alright. They told me that the end is near.
They were more than just a boy band. For millions across the world, One Direction became a part of growing up, the soundtrack of first love, heartbreak, and endless summer nights. Their voices filled stadiums, their posters covered bedroom walls, and their songs carried fans through the brightest and darkest moments of their lives. But behind the lights, the fame, and the deafening screams of fans, a different story was unfolding. One day, the dream shattered. The band that defined a generation went their separate ways. Today, we look back. We remember the boys who became icons, and we ask, what happened to them after the final curtain fell? Who found true glory? Who lost themselves? And will the world ever see them together again? After the breakup of One Direction, it was Harry Styles who emerged at the very center of the global stage. His debut solo album, Harry Styles, was released in 2017 and immediately debuted at #1 in both the UK and the US charts. The single Sign of the Times was named Song of the Year by Rolling Stone, with critics drawing comparisons between Harry and legends like David Bowie and Freddie Mercury. In 2019, he released his second album, Fine Line, the record that transformed him into a global superstar. The single Watermelon Sugar not only topped the charts but also earned him a Grammy for Best Pop Solo Performance. His world tour in support of the album gathered hundreds of thousands of fans and generated tens of millions of dollars. But the path wasn't easy. After the group split, Harry faced immense pressure. Millions of fans expected him to be just another boy band member, while critics doubted he had a serious future. His early experiments in music were met with skepticism, and his fashion choices and bold imagery sparked heated debates. When he appeared on the cover of Vogue in a dress, the internet split in two. Some hailed him as a progressive icon, others mocked him relentlessly. And then there were personal struggles. A life lived under constant scrutiny, endless rumors about his relationships, and the unrelenting pressure of the industry led to burnout. In interviews, Harry admitted that in the first years after One Direction, he had to learn how to be himself again, not just the person his fans wanted him to be. Yet it was those very challenges that forged his image. Today, Harry is one of the most successful artists on the planet. Forbes has named him one of the most influential young musicians, and his fortune is estimated at over 100 million. But behind all this success remains the lingering question: can he sustain this level of stardom, or will the world one day witness the decline of a star who rose on the nostalgia of One Direction? The story of Zayn Malik after the breakup of One Direction is perhaps the most dramatic of them all. He was the first to leave back in 2015, saying he wanted to live a normal life away from fame. For millions of fans, it was a devastating blow. Their idol had walked away at the peak of success, leaving the band as a four-piece. But just a year later, Zayn proved his departure was the beginning of something new. His debut album, Mind of Mine, 2016, shot to the top of the charts, and the single Pillow Talk became a worldwide hit, reaching #1 in both the US and UK. For a time, it seemed that he, not Harry, would become One Direction's breakout solo star. Yet the bright beginning was followed by shadows. Health struggles, anxiety, and panic attacks made touring nearly impossible. Zayn repeatedly canceled shows, disappointing fans. In interviews, he admitted that performing on stage wasn't a source of joy, but of overwhelming stress. Then came the personal dramas. His high-profile romance with Gigi Hadid, the birth of their daughter, and their tumultuous breakup made him a permanent fixture in tabloids. Rumors of conflicts with Gigi's family and even legal troubles dominated the headlines, pushing his music into the background. His later albums never matched the explosive success of Pillow Talk. While his songs still earned millions of streams, public interest in Zayn steadily faded. He rarely appeared in public, gave almost no interviews, and cultivated the image of someone deliberately retreating from the spotlight. Today, Zayn remains an enigma. He still has a loyal army of fans, but unlike Harry Styles, he has almost vanished from the world of big stages. The question remains, will he ever return as the superstar he once promised to be? Or will he forever remain One Direction's lost talent? After the dramatic breakup of One Direction, Niall Horan found himself in the shadow of his more scandal-prone bandmates. But that didn't mean he disappeared. His debut solo album, Flicker, 2017, became an unexpected success. It debuted at #1 in the US, and singles like This Town and Slow Hands cemented his reputation as a musician with a soft, melodic sound, far from the pop anthems of his past. Unlike Zayn or Harry, Niall chose a path free of bold experiments and scandals. His music was calm, heartfelt pop with touches of folk, and soul critics called it sincere and mature. His second album, Heartbreak Weather 2020, didn't match the commercial triumph of his debut, but received strong reviews, solidifying his image as an artist who doesn't chase trends, but creates music true to himself. Like many, his career was heavily impacted by the pandemic. A planned world tour was canceled, forcing Niall into the background for a while. It was during this time that he appeared more online and surprisingly revealed a new side of himself. In 2023, he became a coach on The Voice, showing audiences another dimension of his character: kind, balanced, witty, and experienced. Niall was never a tabloid figure. His name rarely appeared in scandals, and perhaps it was this very distance from the spotlight that allowed him to remain steady where others faltered under the crushing weight of fame. Today, his fortune is estimated at around $70 million. He has a devoted fan base, and he carries the image of a man who stayed true to himself. But the question lingers: will Niall ever step out of Harry Styles' shadow and prove that his music can speak for a generation? Or will he remain the quiet member of One Direction, loved for his sincerity, but rarely placed at the center of attention? Liam Payne sought to build a solo career. In 2017, he released his debut single, Strip That Down, with rapper Quavo. The track climbed high in the charts and became the most successful solo launch of Liam's career. For a moment, it seemed he was firmly following in the footsteps of his former bandmates. His first album, El Pone, released in 2019, however, fell short of expectations. Despite strong anticipation, critics gave it lukewarm reviews, and Liam's musical experiments did not always connect with the public. Against the backdrop of Harry Styles' meteoric rise and Niall Horan's steady success, Payne slowly slipped into the shadows. Alongside musical challenges, Liam increasingly found himself in the headlines for the wrong reasons. He spoke candidly about his struggles with alcohol, mental health, and addiction. In interviews, he admitted to going through dark periods, barely coping with the pressures of fame. In 2021, he revealed that he had been through rehabilitation and was trying to start over. His personal life was no more stable. His relationship with Cheryl Cole, the mother of his son Bear, ended in separation, followed by a series of tumultuous romances and breakups. The press wrote constantly about his instability, while fans grew increasingly worried for his well-being. And then, in October 2024, came the shock that shook the world. On October 16th, Liam Payne tragically died in Buenos Aires, falling from the third floor of the Casa Sur Hotel. He was only 31. Police reports described chaos in his room shortly before the fall, and witnesses claimed he appeared heavily intoxicated. Later, toxicology confirmed the presence of alcohol and narcotics in his system. His death became a stark symbol of the fragility of fame. A man who once filled stadiums with One Direction had been broken by his inner demons. After his passing, his family released a statement calling Liam kind and brave, while thousands of fans around the globe held vigils, lit candles, and wrote farewell messages. At his funeral came the moment fans had long dreamed of, all the former members of One Direction gathered together to say goodbye to their friend. It was a bitter but powerful reminder. Behind all the millions and all the fame, they were still just human, vulnerable, and mortal. Liam Payne left far too soon. His life was a story of talent, of fighting battles within himself, and of the haunting truth that even behind the brightest spotlight, there can be loneliness and pain. After One Direction split, Louis Tomlinson faced perhaps the hardest road. Unlike Harry or Zayn, he didn't have a dramatic solo breakout. His first songs came as isolated releases, the duet Just Hold On with Steve Aoki in 2016, then collaborations with BB Rexha and Digital Farm Animals. They sounded promising but never catapulted him to global superstardom. In 2020, Louis released his debut album Walls, leaning into guitar-driven pop and deeply personal lyrics. The album charted modestly but was warmly received by fans. Louis always seemed one of them, honest, open, and approachable. That's why his following remained so fiercely loyal, even if his name didn't dominate international charts. But behind the music, Louis endured devastating personal trials. In December 2016, his mother, Johanna Deacon, died after a long battle with leukemia. Just 3 days later, Louis stepped on stage, performing Just Hold On the XFactor. That moment became a symbol of his strength and resilience. Then, in 2019, fate struck again. His younger sister, Félicité, died of an overdose at just 18. The tragedy shook Louis deeply. In interviews, he admitted that music was the only thing that helped him survive. That creativity and the support of his fans gave him the strength to keep going. Rather than retreat into the shadows, Louis chose to move forward. His second album, Faith in the Future, 2022, reinforced his identity as an artist who doesn't chase chart toppers, but creates music for those who walk alongside him. The tour in support of the album sold out venues worldwide. With concerts filled with a unique atmosphere, Louis became not just a performer, but someone fans could share their grief and hope with. Today, his name doesn't light up tabloids like Harry or Zayn, but for millions of Directioners, Louis remains a symbol of resilience. He did not allow tragedy to destroy him. And although his path may not be decorated with Grammys or Billboard records, his story resonates differently as the story of a man who rose from loss and found light where there seemed to be only darkness. When the spotlights dimmed and the stage fell silent, for millions of fans around the world, it wasn't just the end of another tour. It felt like saying goodbye to a part of their lives. One Direction left behind not just albums and records, but memories. The first concert, the first song in the headphones when you needed hope. With time, their paths diverged. Some became global icons, others battled demons. Some found quiet happiness, others faced tragic endings. But each of them remains forever part of the phenomenon that reshaped pop music and became the symbol of an entire generation. And therein lies the paradox. Even after breaking apart, One Direction continued to live on. They live in the voices of fans who, years later, still gather at concerts to sing their songs. They live in new generations who discover their videos as if they had just been released yesterday. They live in the joy and pain experienced by each member, emotions that millions still feel alongside them. Perhaps they will never stand on stage together again. Perhaps it will forever remain only a dream. But one day, when the opening chords of What Makes You Beautiful echo once more, millions of people across the world will be transported back to that very moment. The moment when 5 boys became something greater than just a band. They became eternal. Since the group split in 2016, one question has never stopped echoing. Will One Direction reunite? Every year, the media is flooded with rumors, and every hint from a band member sends the internet into a frenzy. The facts speak for themselves. In 2020, as the band's 10th anniversary approached, fans anticipated a grand comeback. Hints appeared online. Harry, Niall, and Louis followed each other again on Twitter after years of silence, and Zayn unexpectedly restored old photos to his profile. But official confirmation never came. In interviews, the answers were always elusive. Niall said he would never rule it out. Louis admitted that it's nice to think about, but right now I'm focused on my solo music. Even Harry, by then a global superstar, remarked, "I don't see why it couldn't happen. It's one Zhao, but reality complicates the dream." Liam Payne's death in 2024 made a full reunion impossible. His loss became a turning point. Now talk of a comeback carries not only fan anticipation, but also the weight of tribute. Many Directioners wrote on social media, One Direction should reunite at least once for Liam. And yet the question remains, can the remaining members set aside their personal ambitions and divergent careers for a single performance? Rumors of a tour or even a one-time reunion surface again and again, but so far they remain only that rumors. The chances exist, however slim. History has seen bands reunite after decades apart, but even if it never happens, One Direction have already become part of history. Their songs still play, and fans still hope. One day, the lights will dim, and they will step onto the stage again, not in full, but together. The dream of reunion still burns, but there is another truth, less often spoken yet impossible to ignore. Beyond solo careers and even tragedy, there were conflicts inside the band itself. Conflicts within One Direction, friendship or struggle. On the surface, they appeared to be the perfect team, 5 boys bound by music and friendship. But behind the scenes, harmony was often missing. The first warning sign came with Zayn Malik's departure in 2015. He explained it as exhaustion and a desire to live a normal life, but later admitted he felt out of place and unable to be himself in the group. His words hurt the others and sent shockwaves through the fan base. Harry and Niall remained neutral, but Louis did not hide his resentment, calling Zayn's departure a real blow. Is not de self impostivet azer. The space preferred for the ride. After the split, tensions only deepened. Liam Payne repeatedly stated in interviews that he was the one holding the group together, suggesting not everyone gave equal effort. His words were interpreted as subtle digs at Harry, who by then had already launched into superstardom. Personal rifts ran deeper. Louis and Zayn for years barely spoke. Fans noticed they avoided public interactions and never acknowledged each other's milestones online. Zayn himself admitted that he had no real relationships with most of the others. Even Niall, the peacemaker, the calm one, once confessed that there had been a lot of tension behind the scenes, carefully hidden from fans. Living together under constant pressure of fame was tough, he said, and it affected our friendships. Liam's death in 2024 cast these conflicts in a tragic new light. Many fans began to wonder if the members had been closer, if the bonds had been stronger. Could Liam's fate have been different? The question remains unanswered. Today, the former members speak carefully of the past. They avoid open criticism, but between the lines it is clear. One Direction was not only a story of friendship and triumph, it was also an arena of clashing egos, ambitions, and pain. The dream of reunion, the talk of friendship, the memories of conflict, they tell only part of the story. To truly understand why One Direction could not continue, we must look deeper into what happened behind the curtain. Because it was there, away from the spotlights, that fatigue, pressure, and cracks began to form, cracks that ultimately split the band apart. Behind the scenes of One Direction Life in a gilded cage. On stage, they seemed to be the happiest boys in the world. 5 friends united by music and adored by millions. But offstage, life was very different. Their schedule was merciless. A new album every year, relentless world tours, promotional appearances, photo shoots, hundreds of interviews. One of them later admitted, "We weren't living, we were existing. Everything was designed to keep the machine running. Their label controlled their every move. They were told how to act in interviews, what they could say about their personal lives, and even who they should be seen with in public." At times, their relationships and rumored romances were carefully staged marketing tools. Fans were shown a polished image, but behind it lay a reality where the boys had little freedom to simply be themselves. The immense pressure also came from fans. One Direction built one of the most passionate fan bases in music history, but devotion sometimes turned dangerous. Fans blocked hotel exits, camped outside their homes, tracked their movements. On tour, their bus could be surrounded by hundreds of screaming teenagers, making it impossible to move. Louis Tomlinson once admitted, "We lived in a gilded cage. We had everything except freedom." In such conditions, tension within the band grew. Any hidden exhaustion or frustration, concealed from the public, spilled into conflicts between members. Zayn Malik said outright that constant pressure and the inability to be himself were why he left. Payne later confessed he coped with it through alcohol and drugs, while both Zayn and Harry struggled with anxiety and burnout. Even their artistic freedom was limited. In the early years, they were hardly allowed to write their own songs. Their catalog was shaped almost entirely by producers. Only later, near the end, did they win the right to influence their album's sound. But by then, the cracks were already too deep. The behind-the-scenes life of One Direction was the hidden side of their legend. Not the fans with posters or the blinding lights, but tired faces in dressing rooms, endless flights, loneliness in hotel rooms, and the suffocating sense that their lives were no longer their own. And it was there, behind the curtain, that the true reasons for their breakup were born.